All right, today we got a little camcorder tech video. We had a customer send in a couple of cams for some repair work. Both cams are three-piece cores with Everware gear on the back, and so they both have hurt gears. But one cam is a brand new. Uh, it was purchased brand new from Reed Cams back but right before they went out of business. Um, so the customer said that, they put the cam in and it made it, I don't know, it didn't have just very, very little run time and it hurt a lobe. So they sent it in to fix the distributor gear and to regrind it to take care of the bad lobe. We welded it up and regrind it. So when the cam got here, I looked at it and it looked like it had already been reground. And I'll show you in a minute. We'll look at it and I'll show you how we concluded that. So I talked to the customer. He's like, no, it's not a regrind. He said, I bought it brand new straight from the cam company. And he said, we got the motor finished, put it in, and, it made it whatever, 5 miles, 10 miles, 3 passes, whatever it was, and hurt a lobe. And so one lobe is really bad. It's you could tell the wheel died, whatever happened, and it killed that lobe. But there's another lobe that's already got some pretty heavy tracking on the opening side of the cam. So once it got in here, I it's still got one in particular cam company always grinds off the core number, so you can't know which core they used. Uh, that's a red flag to me. But regardless, we always leave the core number on all the cams we grind. It's the core number's there. So um, we looked the core up in the catalog, and I'll show you. The catalog gives us the core specs and all that jazz. So I'll show you what core they used to make this cam and why it's the wrong core, and probably why we have all these problems. So let me spin you around, and then we'll go over all of this data. All right, so this is the cam in question. And you can see here, that's the hurt lobe. And obviously the trauma happened on the opening side more than we see on the closing side. And then this number one exhaust, focus, you can feel it and you can see it, but it's already dented in on the opening flank. And also you can see the cam was not centered in the block. So whatever reason, the cam needed to move back in the block, probably 30, 40, 50 thousandths to get centered on that lobe. And they're all even like that. So the lobe placement is in the right place. It's just the cam needed to move back in the block. All right, so let's look. So right here, if it'll focus, the core part number is 315-836. 315-836. So if we come over here to the core catalog, 315-836. So that cam is 280, 284, 450, 425, 110 plus 5 lobe separation. And then it gives us some more data: heel to toe, spool diameter, 8660 quench and temper with Everware gear, and it's a 4.7 swap. All right, so I run it in the Cam Doctor, and if we look here, the finished cam is 288, 308 with a 480, basically a 480 lobe lift. Now, The intake is not a problem, but the exhaust is a problem. And the problem is, is 24 degrees too big, and it's got what, 55 thousandths more lift. And so what happens is, let me set this down here. So what happens is, and of course we're right in the light. What happens is when you add lift, you have to reduce the base circle diameter, because the lobe height is fixed, because the lobe height cannot extend beyond the journal diameter. You couldn't put it in a motor. So engine, for all you perfectionists. So when the lobe lift increases, we just keep having to make that base circle smaller and smaller and smaller. And so what happens is what you see, the base circle gets down into the spool diameter. And so it tells us in the book, so the body diameter is 970. So if we just take, if we can here, let me see. Yeah. So if we take the heel to toe, I measured it, and it's 1 in 425, and then we minus 478, which is the lobe lift, that gives us 947 as the base circle diameter. So the roughed in base circle diameter was 970. I'm sorry, the body diameter of the spool itself is 970. So we are, I mean, basically 23 thousandths below the body diameter, and the heel to toe, what was 1 in 525, and now it's 1 in 425, so it's 100 small than it was in a roughed in condition. And then the lobe separation on this core is 110. The lobe separation on this finish grind is 113.25. So we got all kind of stuff stacked up against us, and that is why. The other deal is I put it in the Rockwell tester and checked the hardness on the base circle, and the hardness was only 36, I think, 36 or 38. It was under 40. And that core new, I've checked a bunch of them, 8660 core will be 58. Some of them will be a little more than that, but 58's pretty standard. So pretty much the heat treat's gone. We have got under the heat treat. And I mean, it's really just, it's not worth fixing. At this point, it's just not worth fixing. So it would cost, I mean, it will basically be cheaper just to buy a new core and just start over, because it's the wrong core. It's already been ground to death, and there's just no fixing it. So at this point, the moral of the story is, you know, when you buying cams, used cams and stuff, just be aware that if you see one that's ground down into the core like that, below the spool diameter, that's a problem, and it's probably not going to be any good. It might be, I mean, it could be, but it could not be. So, I mean, you don't want a bunch of garbage and create even more problems. So just be aware of that. And, you know, I just thought that would be, you know, an informative deal while it's sitting here in front of me. So just be aware, and we appreciate you. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks so much.